Welcome to Cafe Racer Garage. I am Dan, giving you the skills and inspiration to build a motorcycle that you can be proud of. And today we're working on the Honda CB750. Technically it's a Honda CB900 now. And if you haven't seen the previous videos about that, I highly recommend checking those out, especially the last one where we rebuilt the engine. But we have the owner, Jet, giving me a hand with his bike. So rather than explain everything we're doing, let's just get straight into it. And before we get too far, I wanted to give you a drawing of what this bike is going to look like when it's completed. This drawing has been done by my friend Alex, and it's going to be by far the best bike I've ever built. And let me know in a comment, do you prefer the green or the red? So now that we have the old subframe chopped off, we're going to be fabricating a brand new one from scratch, which I'll show you shortly. And Jet is working on the tank and stripping off all of the paint. We're also going to be removing all of the rust from the inside. You can do this in whatever order you prefer, there's no right or wrong, but if you're really worried about any flash rusting from the raw metal on the outside or any of the liquid tank liner getting stuck on the outside of the tank, I would probably recommend just doing the inside first and getting rid of all your rust, and then doing the tank liner while the original paint is still on it, and then you can strip the paint later. I don't have to worry about it too much because I have a vapor blaster on hand, which I can easily get rid of any of the surface rust just before I prime and paint. Taking this tank back to raw metal has revealed quite a few veins of rust, which the vapor blaster will take care of. We're going to be de-rusting the entire inside with double strength vinegar. If you do decide to do the vinegar method, I just suggest getting a bag or a tub big enough that can submerge the entire tank and just add a little bit of water if you need to. We're using double strength vinegar, so it's definitely going to be strong enough. And you just need to leave it for maybe 12 to 24 hours. It all depends on the amount of rust that you do have. Using vinegar is a great way of removing rust. It takes 24 to 48 hours. It's just one cheap way of doing it, but there's plenty of methods that you can use that are probably more dedicated for doing this, and it can do it a lot faster. For example, Rust Blast by KBS works extremely well, and it comes also with the Aqua Clean and everything you need when you buy a tank sealer kit. I wanted to show you the vinegar method because it does work, but if it wasn't for this video, I wouldn't have used it. I would have just gone straight with the Rust Blast because it's a hell of a lot better and works way faster. So as you can see, this is the tank before we started to treat it with the vinegar, and after about 24 hours we still noticed quite a bit of flaky rust in the bottom. So we did it again, but the second time I dropped in a length of chain, half filled it with vinegar, and then shook the absolute daylights out of it, trying not to throw my back out in the process. Just make sure when you do flush it out with water that you do use bicarb soda so it minimizes the flash rusting as much as possible, or you could even fill it up with fuel. So after taking out the chain and then removing most of the flaky rust with a magnet, I turned it upside down and flushed it out with some more water. And as you can see, the results aren't too bad. I then completely dried out the tank with a heat gun and used a piece of hose on a vacuum cleaner with a bit of wire and sucked out all of those small pieces of flaky rust that I couldn't get with the magnet. And now it's time to start fabricating the subframe, cleaning the old one up first. I really enjoy the fabrication side of things, but now that Jet's here, I'm going to get him involved in the design process of the new subframe and get him on the tools. So now that we have the subframe made and we're pretty happy with it, it's time to mount the rear of the tank. And this guy here, we're gonna make it on a bit of an upsweep at the rear of the tank and just following the line of the subframe. And the subframe is going to end pretty much in the center of the rear axle. And as you can see under here, there's absolutely no mounting, so I'm going to have to fabricate something from scratch. This tank is actually not off this bike. It's a 1978 CB750 tank, and the rest of the bike is a 1980s model CB750. So the tank has been completely stripped of paint and rust. We've got a skim coating of WD-40 just on the raw metal at the moment, just to prevent any flash rusting. And on the inside, we're going to be doing a KBS tank liner. So I made the mistake of not doing a tank liner in one of my tanks years ago, and I had a beautiful paint job that I did myself, and it got a little pinhole. The fuel started to come through and it just bubbled the entire paint, and it's destroyed now, unfortunately. So that was a budget build, and I tried to save a few bucks, and I'll never ever do that again. And if you're looking at getting a tank liner, we have them available on our website. I'll leave that link in the description below because it's the exact tank liner I'll be using on this tank. By using a simple digital angle finder, I can kind of determine where the angle of the tank's going to be and make the bracket accordingly. The tank bracket's going to be something that comes up, across and back down again, and these original rubbers will be sitting on top of that, and then there's going to be something like this, but more of a vibration mount sort of thing, which will protrude out the bottom, and so then I'll just have that thread and I'll just need a nut to tighten up underneath, and that'll lock the tank in place. That's the idea. Let's see how it goes. So I used to make all my brackets out of standard cardboard, you know, that corrugated stuff, until I found this stuff here. It's box board, and it's fantastic because you get a real accurate cut, and when you score it like this, just simply put a score straight down the line and it will just fold perfectly. You just end up with a real accurate template, and then you can turn to steel. So it is quite boxy looking, but that's exactly what I want because of how wide these rubbers are. The original rubbers that sit on the tank, they're going to be sitting pretty much on each end. And that looks pretty damn good to me. And that'll allow room for any wires or anything that I need to go up under the tank. So that kind of works out well. So that's what we ended up with. Let's cut it out of steel. So for this application, I want the insert to be flush with the outside edge of the hoop here, but you could also have it protruding out a little bit and weld around the outside edge of the insert itself, and I think that would look kind of smart as well. I absolutely love these little taillights. I use them on so many of my bikes, and each time I do, I get questions asking where to purchase them from, and because of that, I've made them now available on my website, as well as the inserts to go with them, so you can install those into your existing hoop, or if you need to purchase a hoop or a loop, I've got those available. And I've also got these little guys here which have the insert already welded in for you to save you some time. I have so much more to share with you on this bike build, but until then, go and check out one of these two.